In this video, I'll reveal the complete YouTube analytics system that's helped me build a channel to over 1 million subscribers and generate millions in revenue from our videos. And this isn't theory. Look at these screenshots. This video went from 5,000 views in its first 70 days to over 3 million views after I implemented just one of the strategies that I'm about to show you. And what makes this system different is understanding that you need to track different metrics in the first hour versus the first day versus your weekly review. And if you're brand new to YouTube, you need to track different metrics than if you've been doing YouTube for a while. And don't worry, I'll explain. But get this wrong and you're basically throwing darts in the dark. Get it right and you'll know exactly why some videos blow up while others flop. And I've taught this exact framework to clients who've gone from struggling to get views to hitting 500K in revenue by understanding what nobody tells you about YouTube analytics. So in this video, I'm gonna be giving away secrets that a lot of people have paid thousands of dollars for. So if you appreciate that, go ahead, hit the like button, and let's jump into it right now. All right, so let's talk about how to analyze YouTube performance. So this is my main channel. It's over 1.2 million subscribers now, and it wasn't luck. It wasn't like a blind rock throw. It was data that got me there. But not just any data, reading the right data and interpreting it the right way. And this is the same data that's helped some of my clients go from struggling to get views to hitting 500K a month in revenue, right? So this is my client, Sean. I have other clients like Nicole, who went from 85 subscribers all the way to making over $80,000 a month. And a significant amount of that came from reading the right analytics, interpreting those analytics the right way, and then making data-driven decisions. So what to expect in this guide? Well, first we're gonna go over why looking at analytics matters beyond just ego, which KPIs actually move the needle for views, your channel, and more importantly, revenue, the 3 critical time windows that most creators miss, how to optimize your channel for maximum RPM, and advanced metrics that separate the professionals from the amateurs. So first, why do you need to track analytics? Well, let me tell you a story. When I initially started on YouTube, I created diverse content, right? I created a lot of different types of content. I had a RuneScape channel. I had a channel on pharmacy. I had a channel where I made 1-minute videos on random topics. I had a channel on different life hacks that you can do. I had a self-development channel. And the problem was with all of those channels that I was basically just throwing darts in the dark. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, even if I did make a good video, I wouldn't have known it because I didn't know how to read analytics. And just as an example, I started out as a PCAT tutor. So I was basically tutoring people who were trying to get into pharmacy school to take this test that you have to take in order to get into pharmacy school called the PCAT. And I also really enjoyed helping people to achieve their goals as well. So I basically started to coach pharmacy students as well. And I was career coaching them on what they could do to finish pharmacy school faster, and finish college faster and get a good job. And at the same time, I was in the process of becoming a pharmacist myself. So I was basically just solving problems for the younger version of myself, which other people happen to have. And when I started making content for this, my analytics revealed that college and career content significantly outperformed other types of content that I was doing. And the real turning point came when I decided to double down on remote work because I had started to work remotely myself. It completely changed the game for me. I remember the first time I went on a trip while I was working remotely was when I went to Puerto Rico with my best friend, John. And I met a bunch of other people that were also working remote. And I just couldn't believe that I was able to travel the world while I was getting paid. It was mind-blowing to me. And even when I wasn't traveling, just all the perks of being able to work from home. Not having to go through traffic, saving a bunch of time, effort, and money, not having to buy lunches, eating healthier because I could cook for myself, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted to share this passion that I had for remote work with the rest of the world. And so I started making a lot of content and I doubled down on what the data told me, and my channel grew 10 times faster. Now, one thing that I'll say about data is a lot of people are intimidated by it. They're like, I was not good at math when I was younger. I'm not good at crunching numbers in spreadsheets. And what I'm gonna tell you is I'm going to simplify this so much to where it will be incredibly easy for you to understand whether you're a math person or you're not a math person.
Quick break. This video is sponsored by me. Most of you don't know that I actually have my own coaching program on personal branding and then growing and making money on YouTube. And this is good for complete beginners, maybe even people who just want to get a job by growing their personal brand, all the way up to people who are very advanced on YouTube. And they get to work directly with myself and my team to help them reach their goals. Now, We are opening up 3 to 5 spots, and this is pretty rare. We usually don't have these open. We usually only limit them to select people. But we're opening up 3 to 5 spots, and you can check those out down in the description and the pinned comment below. And in this program, you'll get to work directly with myself and other people who are highly successful on YouTube. Just as an example, Sean was able to go all the way from being stuck, not making very much money on his channel, to making over $500,000 a month. Now, that's an example of one of my more advanced students, but there's lots of examples of people who started off from scratch and they got to 5K a month, 10K a month, etc. So check that out down in the description and the pinned comment below.
So when it comes to experimentation and content creation and how to actually identify what types of content are doing really well on your channel, you basically just start with content creation. You start by creating content. And we've talked about that in other videos. You'd start by using the icon method, and then you'd create a bunch of diverse different types of videos. Just like I did earlier. I created a bunch of different types of videos because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about on the channel, right? I had a successful career coaching business, but when I first started YouTube, I was all over the place talking about lots of different things. But when I started the channel, I was talking about investing, how to write grants, side hustles, how to budget, and of course, career and college related content. And I was basically just solving problems for the younger version of myself. And it was all part of trial and error. And then I identified the successful content that was not only successful when it came to getting views, but it was also successful when it comes to making money and driving clients to my career coaching services. And at that point, I started focusing on the winning strategies. But you might be thinking, Shane, how do you find the winning strategies? Well, I'm glad you asked. First, you want to look at video performance, which is the core metrics for a video success. And you want to look at the first hour, the first day, and you want to have a weekly review as well. And then of course, you can look back on your older content too, which we'll go over down the line. And if you get this right, you'll know exactly why some videos blow up while others flop. So let's talk about part one, the first hour analysis, which is the critical window. So you uploaded a video. Now what? Well, we need to look at your video's first hour impression with the algorithm. And this is kind of like having a first impression at a job interview. It matters a lot. So what exactly are we looking at in this first hour? Well, first of all, you want to publish the video, you want to do the comment management, and then in the first hour, you want to pin the important comments as soon as they're live. And when you read the comments, you might see some really important ones that viewers bring up that may need immediate attention. So it's a really good practice to do this, but the real reason that you're going to be doing this is because you want to pay attention to the analytics. This is kind of like launching a rocket, right? Everyone, when the rocket first launches, is dialed in, right? They're all paying attention, they're all communicating with each other. And after this successful launch, when the rocket is flying through space, they don't have to pay as much attention. But the first hour is crucial because it's basically like you're launching a rocket. And the first thing that you want to monitor in the first hour, other than views, of course, is your click-through rate or your CTR. And you want to monitor metrics via YouTube analytics. And then 1 hour after the video is launched, you look to see if the CTR is performing well as the views, right? So if you have low views and low CTR, you need to create a new design for your thumbnail and then change it every hour until your click-through rate improves. However, if you have good views and your click-through rate is performing well, then you don't need to do anything. Now, I will say that when you first begin on YouTube, this is not as important because if you don't have any videos up, you won't have any videos to compare your other videos to. But generally speaking, below 4% click-through rate and lower than average views indicates issues with the thumbnail or title. And above 4% click-through rate, assuming the views are either average or above average, suggests an effective thumbnail and title. Now, what about a situation where the views are above average, but the click-through rate is below average? Well, in that situation, you still would do nothing. And I'm gonna explain exactly why that is here in a bit. In fact, I'm gonna show you videos where the click-through rate was below average, but the video did extremely well. Now, if you're a little bit more advanced on YouTube, you might be thinking, Shane, why not just split test thumbnails? And if you already have a channel that's doing well, you absolutely should be doing that. But the first few hours are different. In fact, I recommend not split testing thumbnails in the first few hours, right? So if you're not familiar with this, there is a thumbnail split testing feature inside of YouTube Analytics, and it does it automatically. You can upload multiple thumbnails and it will split test them automatically. But again, I don't recommend doing that in the first few hours. Now, if you have decided that you want to keep the thumbnail, you're going to maintain current design and analyze performance. And if you want to change the thumbnails, you're going to create multiple designs and test and optimize the CTR. The exception to this is if your video is getting far more views than usual, but the click-through rate is low, then just leave it alone. And one of the most powerful tools in our arsenal is A/B testing thumbnails. And this is something that you can do after the first few hours. Now, this is also something that I don't recommend doing when you first start your channel, simply because you won't be getting enough views to reach statistical significance. meaning you might be A/B testing your thumbnails for like 3 months before you even reach statistical significance, and it's probably not worth your time at that point. However, if you have a bigger and more advanced channel, you absolutely should be doing A/B testing every single time. And if you're not aware of what A/B testing is, it's basically where you just have 2 different thumbnails and you test them against each other. You can do this in YouTube Analytics, and it will pick the winner and automatically set that as your base thumbnail. Now, one thing to note is when videos get pushed more in browse features, your click-through rate will naturally drop a bit as you reach a broader audience. But that's a good sign. It means YouTube is promoting your content to a wider audience. So just as an example, some of my best videos have some of the lowest click-through rates on my channel. So you can see this one has a 4.2% click-through rate, which is relatively low, and it's getting promoted in browse. And it got a good amount of views, almost 300,000. So pay attention to where your initial traffic is coming from. Browse means that it's coming from the home page. And that's a good thing because that means YouTube is promoting your channel to a wider audience. And in a moment, we're going to be talking about the other 2 areas that YouTube is going to promote your channel in as well, which are search and suggested. But first, let's talk about the first 24 hours analysis, the trajectory indicator. So at this point, you were paying attention during the first hour, you might have changed the thumbnail a few times, and you saw some positive results, and so you stopped changing the thumbnail. Now, the first thing I like to do is wait until 24 hours after, and then I look at my traffic source breakdown. And there's 3 main traffic sources. Search traffic is what happens when people actively look for solutions to their problems. So they search for something at the top of YouTube and items related to their search pop up. And this is an example of a video that got promoted heavily in search. Now you might notice that the click-through rate is quite high here, even considering the fact that this video got over 1 million views. It had an incredible 7.9% click-through rate. You might also notice that only 10.5% of views came from recommended. Recommended, generally speaking, means it was promoted in browse, which means it was promoted on the home page. So this one did not get promoted very much on the home page. And instead, 87.8% of traffic came from YouTube search. Now, one thing about viewers that come in through search, aka they were actively searching for a solution to their problem, and then they ended up clicking on your content, is they're more likely to click, they're more likely to watch longer, and they're ultimately more likely to convert into customers. Why? Because like I said before, they're actively looking for a solution to their problem. And so if you offer a solution in the form of an affiliate link or your own product or service, they're much more likely to actually buy your stuff. And this is the closest thing to passive income on YouTube. I have videos that I posted over 5 years ago now that are still bringing me clients. For instance, this video you can see here, the UTM was posted in 2019. And that's basically what we use for tracking. And this person booked a call and they became a client. And every time you post a video and it gets promoted in search, it could potentially get promoted for 10, 15, even 20 years. There are videos that were posted about 20 years ago now that are still getting views on YouTube. And so every time you post a video like this and it gets promoted a lot in search, it's almost like a little soldier that's only job is to go out every single day, 24 hours a day, and get you views, subscribers, and make you money. Now, browse traffic comes from YouTube's homepage recommendations. Oh, this is what it looks like. And this is much harder to get because you're competing with massive channels, right? You're basically competing against Mr. Beast, but it is the fastest way to grow. And we're going to talk about a strategy where you can get promoted in browse as well as search. And then finally, there's suggested traffic. And this comes from the sidebar when someone's watching another video. And this is what it looks like inside of analytics. So this is a video that primarily got promoted through suggested. Now, it's much more difficult to aim for getting a lot of suggested content. Basically, you want to make your content good and you want to reference your other pieces of content inside of the videos that you make. So for instance, at the end of the video, I almost always tell people to watch another video, and that is a great way to get your suggested traffic up. However, you have to already be getting traffic in order to get suggested traffic, generally speaking. And this is very common when people are binge watching your content. But what we're looking for is a 3-pronged approach that I like to call the Moneyball method. And this is a movie about really smart analysts that basically used data analytics inside of the sport of baseball to determine that people who are really good at hitting home runs were overvalued, aka they were getting paid way more than their actual value to a team. And the people who were simply hitting the ball and getting on first base were undervalued, aka they were getting paid far less than the actual value they were giving to the team. And so they basically created an entire team full of people that were really good at getting on base. And they had massive success with this strategy, despite the fact that they didn't have nearly as much money as a lot of the bigger market teams. So the Moneyball method is where you want to hit the ball in such a way that there is a chance that you can hit a home run, aka get promoted on browse, but if not, at least you will get on first base and have a chance to score, aka get promoted in search. And it's a heck of a lot easier to just simply hit the ball and get promoted in search than it is to hit a home run. But basically, you want to put your search term as close to the beginning of your title as possible, but you also want to make your title attractive, right? So you want to make your title attractive to click on, but you want to make it search friendly. And so your search term needs to be as close to the front of the title as possible because it's much more likely that you'll get promoted in search this way. And additionally, when it comes to selecting your videos in the first place, you want to use the icon method, which is basically finding winning ideas. And then you use the holy trifecta, which is kind of like the marketing or the packaging of your video, which is how you make the thumbnail, the title, and the intro, and how you make sure those three things are good and they're also congruent with each other. So we're not gonna dive deep into that in this video because this is all about analytics. So like I was talking about before, check your click-through rate. So you might be thinking, is a low click-through rate of 3 to 4% a bad sign for my video? Not necessarily. It can actually be a good sign if your video is getting a lot of views. And some of my best videos have the lowest click-through rates. Like this one, for instance, they got over 1.5 million views despite the 3.6% click-through rate. Why? Because it got promoted on the home page a lot and it went to a much wider audience. AKA it went to a colder audience that was much less likely to click on the video, right? So you can see that it got promoted heavily in browse. Second was suggested, and then third, all the way down at only 7.4% was search. So it makes sense that this video had a low click-through rate because it got promoted so heavily to a wider audience. Whereas this is a video on a very similar subject and also got a lot of views, but the click-through rate is 8%. Now, if you've been paying attention, you can probably guess why this is, right? 8% video, 954,000 views. Very similar subject. Why do you think the click-through rate's so high? Well, it's because it got most of its traffic from search, right? Search is number one here. And like I said before, people who are actively searching for solutions to their problem, if they see your video, they're likely going to click on it. So in this way, there's really no good or bad click-through rate because context matters. If you're getting a lot of views, a lower click-through rate is expected because you're reaching a broader audience. If you're primarily getting browse traffic, your click-through rate will naturally be lower as well. And if your video targets a mass market audience, your click-through rate will typically be lower over time. Why? Because it's going to appeal to a wider audience that's less familiar with you and is also less likely to be interested in the video. However, if you're targeting a very niche audience, the algorithm will very likely only show it to those types of people, and so therefore the click-through rate will be higher, but the moment it tries to show it to a wider audience, it won't work, and so therefore the algorithm will stop showing it. And it will only show that video to that niche audience, therefore keeping the click-through rate high, but your views will likely be much lower. So a really easy way to understand this is, let's just say you're going on a hike and you got bit by a snake and you're freaking out, you don't know what to do, you don't know if the snake's venomous or not, and you immediately whip out your phone, you pull up YouTube and you type in what to do when bit by a snake. Well, if a video pops up that tells you exactly what to do when you get bit by a snake, you are very likely to click on and watch that video. Whereas if you're just randomly browsing YouTube and the same exact video pops up, if you're bored, you might watch it, but there's a very good chance that you're likely gonna watch something else. So a general rule of thumb when it comes to click-through rate is the higher, the better. And I know this might seem like oversimplifying it, but it's really the truth. A good click-through rate is a higher click-through rate than what you're currently getting. And this can change across niches and a lot of different things, but generally speaking, if you're getting traffic from both browse and search, but primarily browse, aim for at least a 4 to 6% click-through rate. And if you're primarily getting search traffic, you should be seeing a 6 to 10% click-through rate. But with that being said, there are exceptions. For instance, if you're making news style content and you make a video on news that just came out, you might notice that your click-through rate is very high because there's a massive amount of demand for that particular event that just happened. But usually this will only last a very short period of time and then the video will die. However, if you're not making news style content, by the end of the first 24 hours, you should have a clear trajectory for your video and understand what actions to take. So this is the point where it's a good idea for you to split test thumbnails if you have a big enough channel and you're getting enough views. If you're not, absolutely do not waste time split testing thumbnails because it's likely going to be months before you get to a level of statistical significance where it'll actually choose one thumbnail over the other. All right, part 3 is weekly monitoring. And this is an incredible growth strategy. When I started doing this, this is when my channel really took off. So here's kind of an overview of how we do weekly monitoring. We like to do data from the last 28 days, and we monitor and track the following data based on importance. So there's fundamental metrics like total views, click-through rate, and the average view duration. And then there's advanced metrics like the percent of viewers that watch up until 30 seconds, the subscribers per 100 views, and the total revenue per 1,000 views. And this is when we zoom out from individual video performance and we start identifying patterns across our channel. And this is where you make a strategy that is going to get you exponentially more views in the future. So first, let's talk about average view duration. This tells you how long people watch your video on average once they click on it. And you want this to be as high as possible, similar to click-through rate. With that being said, similar to click-through rate, if your video gets promoted to a wider audience, your average view duration will likely go down. For instance, this is a video that got millions of views, and you can see that my average view duration is 4 minutes and 22 seconds, which is 59 seconds less than usual. So you would think, right, it's almost a minute less than it usually is. Doesn't that mean that it's a bad video? No, because again, it got promoted to a wider audience, so context matters. Now, generally speaking, for a beginner, because I know I get this question all the time, what's the perfect length, right? And the perfect length would be about 14 minutes and 59 seconds for a beginner, right? For a channel that's relatively new. And the reason for this is because it increases the AVD significantly while it stays under that critical 15-minute threshold. Now, if your content needs to be longer, make it around 19 minutes and 59 seconds, aka under 20 minutes. Why do you do this? Well, there's a psychological barrier at 15 or 20 minutes that makes many people less likely to click. This is similar to Walmart pricing things at $19.99 instead of $20. Significantly more people will buy, believe it or not, if it's priced at $19.99 versus $20, even though it's essentially the same price. So, what's a good AVD? Well, it depends on so many factors: video length, traffic sources, niche specificity, content volume, etc. But getting an average AVD above 4 minutes once you have significant views is usually pretty good. Now, my channel's all-time average view duration is 4 minutes and 29 seconds, and our current goal is 5 minutes. With that being said, if you're making mass market content, generally speaking, it's going to get promoted to a wider audience, and therefore your average view duration is going to go down a bit. And if you're making niche content, it's generally going to only promote it to an audience that's interested in that topic, and so therefore your average view duration will go up. So if you're making niche content, you may have an average view duration that is significantly higher than this. But like I said before, the best average view duration is simply a higher average view duration than whatever you're doing now. Next, check your average percentage viewed. Now, if you have a 20-minute video and the average person watches your videos for 5 minutes, then your average view duration would be 5 minutes. And if you have a 10-minute video and the average person watches it for 5 minutes, then your average view duration will still be 5 minutes. However, take that same exact scenario, you have a 20-minute video and your average view duration is 5 minutes, your average percentage viewed will be 25%. And if you have a 10-minute video and your average view duration is 5 minutes, your average percentage viewed will be 50%. So in this case, I had a 22-minute video. My average view duration was 5 minutes and 55 seconds. And my average percentage viewed was 26.6%. And by the way, this is why, generally speaking, it's better to make long videos. And this is why I recommend, as a beginner, you make videos where you aim for 14 minutes and 59 seconds. Because it's much easier to get your average view duration up, and that's what actually matters more. With that being said, you want to also pay attention to your average percentage viewed and try to get that up. And generally speaking, for your average percentage viewed, you want to aim for at least 25 to 30%. Now, my successful channel's lifetime APV is 31.2%, and we're currently targeting 35%. So just like all of the other ones, the best APV is a higher APV. And again, if you make mass market content, it's likely going to be lower. If you make niche content, it's likely going to be higher. All right, so part 4 is optimizing your channel revenue. And this is where we get to the advanced metrics. And in my opinion, this matters significantly more than views and subscribers. Now, CPM is how much money your video generates from ads per 1,000 views. This is not how much money you earn, because YouTube splits it with you 55 to 45%. RPM is how much you actually earn and how much actually reaches your bank account after YouTube takes its cut. And here's why this is so important. YouTube's dirty little secret is that the algorithm actually favors videos that generate more ad revenue. This is how YouTube makes the majority of its money. right? When you promote an affiliate link or if you sell your own product, YouTube doesn't get any money from that. So they favor channels that generate more ad revenue. And some people will disagree with me on this, but I have done lots of tests. And this is the one thing that if you take this one thing from this entire video, you'll be far ahead of just about everyone else out there. And I had a video that was getting minimal traction, aka fewer than 10,000 views, and I didn't have monetization enabled. But after I monetized, that same video suddenly took off, eventually reaching over 1 million views. Right, so you can see right here, 199 days after it was published, it was only 9,200 views. And that's around the time that I monetized the video. And after I discovered this, I started placing mid-roll ads every 90 to 120 seconds in my videos and enabling all ad types. And after making this change, one video went from 5,000 views in its first 70 days to over 3 million views. And this was that video. And here's more proof. I've even tested using slightly different keywords and titles that advertisers pay more for, even though the contents of the video were about the same. So for example, this was true at least in the past, it may not be true now, but videos using the keyword term college degrees in the title would get significantly more views than nearly identical videos using college major, even though for the context of the video, it was essentially the same thing. Here's an example. Now this was a while back, but you can see that these videos have very similar stats, except for the fact that the top one got way more views. And the only real difference between the two videos was the fact that I used the term college degrees in the title. And if you use SEO tools like Keywords Everywhere, you'll see that college degrees and college majors get around the same search volume, but college degrees was getting paid $8.94 per 1,000 views, whereas college majors was only $1.28. And so it makes sense that they would promote that one significantly more. So the algorithm favors videos that make them more money, period. YouTube is a company, they want to make more money. The way they make money is through AdSense. And so you need to make sure that you're enabling AdSense, packing your videos with ads, because by the way, they're still not going to show all the ads. It just gives them more chances to show ads. Putting those ads at ideal moments that are cliffhangers in your videos, if possible, and choosing keywords that have higher RPM or CPM. All right, part 5, advanced metrics for scaling channels. All right, so we're going to talk about the intro or hook retention rate. And this is the percentage of viewers who make it to the 30-second mark. Now, this metric directly impacts how aggressively the algorithm will promote your video, because the more people that you can keep in the intro, the more people are going to continue watching your video. So the intro is incredibly important for hooking people in and convincing them to watch the rest of the video. And a strong hook drives complete video views. And viewers engaged in the first 30 seconds typically watch the entire video. And this is something that we monitor because it's a way of telling how good the intros are and telling how good of a job the video editors did when they edited the intro. So this is another one that's going to change depending on the niche. But with that being said, we aim for 65 to 70% retention in the first 30 seconds. Next is subscribers per 1,000 views. And this tells you something the view count alone can't: how valuable viewers found your content. So you could hypothetically create a really good piece of kind of like clickbait content that had a super high click-through rate, and you kept the viewer until the end of the video, but at the end of the video, they had this empty feeling like, you know what, I think I just wasted my time, and they leave the video and they never watch your content again. Whereas you could create a video that keeps somebody until the very end, and then they love it and they decide to subscribe to your channel. And the subscribers per 1,000 views really says a lot about how valuable your viewers found your content. So the easiest way to calculate this is subscribers over views times 1,000. And if a video gets a ratio of 5 or less, that's a red flag. And if a video hits 15 or higher, that's a strong signal to create more content like that. And we've even had videos that have had negative subscriber ratios. So that is a really strong indicator that you should probably not be creating more of that type of content. So again, this is an indicator. It can be affected by a lot of different things. For instance, if you make a video that's outside of the typical type of content that you usually make, this might be a bit lower than you'd expect, but generally speaking, less than 5, not good, more than 15, really good. An average for channels is usually somewhere around 5 to 10. And next, let's talk about a very important one, and that is the total revenue per 1,000 views. And this is not the same as the RPM or the CPM. Now, the CPM is a part of this. Let's just say you have a CPM of $10 per 1,000 views. That is what YouTube is paying you for the ads that pop up on your channel per 1,000 views. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the total revenue that you're making from your YouTube channel per 1,000 views. That means the total revenue you're making from affiliate links, sponsorships, selling your own products and services, selling merch, like whatever you're doing with your channel to make money, all of it added together, divided by all of your views, times 1,000. So what is a good total revenue per 1,000 views? Well, channels with affiliates or low ticket products typically generate $25 to $200 per 1,000 views. And this is in the educational space. So if you're making educational content, if you're making entertainment content, it's usually going to be a lot lower than this. High ticket products with mass market content can typically reach around $300 to $1,000 per 1,000 views. And then specialized B2B solutions or products that target a very niche audience and sell high ticket can hit an astounding $1,000 to even $7,000 per 1,000 views. And I've seen this as high as $20,000 to $30,000 per 1,000 views. In fact, I have one client who only gets about 100 to 200 views per video, but last year he made over $2 million. I have another client who only gets around 500 to 1,000 views per video, and last year he made over $10 million. So they have astronomically high revenue per 1,000 views. And this is what happens when you sell high ticket products and services and you sell it to a niche audience of people that actually have money. Now, I actually did an audit of a bunch of different channels, and these are channels that publicly revealed their income. And I looked at the date that they revealed the income, cross-referenced it with how many views they got according to Social Blade, and then looked at what they were selling on their channel, and I was able to determine an approximation of what their revenue per 1,000 views is. So if you want to pause the video and look at a bunch of different channels, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So the next question is, should you sell low ticket or high ticket? Well, the pros of low ticket is there is a lot of passive income potential, and it's a simple funnel setup, right? You make some type of low ticket product, you set up the funnel one time, and you can sell those products passively for the next 10, 15 years, as long as the video stays up and it keeps getting views. The cons here is usually, paradoxically, low ticket products require extremely high production quality because usually you're selling to a mass market audience and they care about stuff like editing. There's also a lower revenue ceiling, and you typically have to have very sophisticated marketing, right? So you have to be really good at making a good landing page, really good at collecting people's emails, and then sending them good emails to actually sell the product. High ticket offerings, on the other hand, have high revenue potential, very simple marketing, and there's less focus on production quality. Niche, sophisticated B2B audiences, generally speaking, don't care all that much about the production quality, and they really just care about the value of the content itself. Now, the cons here is it does require a personalized service. So typically you're gonna be selling a high ticket coaching offer or an agency offer or a service, and usually you will need expert human beings actually carrying that out. So it's a lot harder to do than making like a resume template or something like that, like a low ticket offer. So some examples of low ticket offers would be resume templates, a mini course, Notion templates, thumbnail templates, PDFs, guides, ebooks, etc. So typically you have a need for a team and it's not hands-off, right? And one of the biggest downsides of selling high ticket offers is you typically are going to sell them over the phone, right? So you're gonna have to either do the sales yourself or hire a salesperson. However, high ticket is simply more profitable for 80% plus of creators, right? I've worked with hundreds of creators at this point, and most of them have audiences where they would make more money from a high ticket offer. And I've also tested out a bunch of offers on my channel. And just as an example, the earnings per click, which is how much money you make every single time someone clicks on one of your links, is often $1 to $3 for low ticket offers. And in many cases, it's over $50 for high ticket offers. So it's somewhere between 20 and 50 times more revenue per click for a high ticket offer versus a low ticket offer. And the revenue per 1,000 views is significantly higher, often 5 to 10 times higher. So high ticket offers are more of a headache. They're much harder to automate, but they make significantly more money. So let's talk about a long-term plan. So you want to be holding weekly review sessions. And here's an example of us reviewing a video with a bunch of the most important metrics. And we're going to go over this in more detail. So the first thing you'd want to do is look at your video performance over the last 28 days. So you'd look at the total views, total watch time, and the total subscribers. Then you'd look at all of these key metrics that I just talked about for each video. And this is literally exactly what we do. Right, these are the exact slides that we make. They don't have to be this pretty, but we like to make them, a little bit easier to look at. And we go over all of these metrics that I just talked about. So here are a few examples. And then you want to think, what did the videos that did well have in common? And what did the videos that didn't do well have in common? And this is where you want to get really analytical And I like to meet up with my whole team and go over these. And I like to pay more attention to the ones that did well than the ones that didn't do well. So if a video did really well, chances are we are all going to watch that video right there, and then we're going to have a discussion about what made the video do so well. Was it the thumbnail? Was it the title? Was it the intro? Was it the general idea? Was it the format that we used, right? Was it because it's a listicle or because it's a how-to video?
All right, guys, for 1 month only, we are accepting people into our coaching program, Content Growth Engine, where we help you to grow and make money from your personal brand. Now, this can apply to people who are just trying to get a better job, just grow their personal brand to get a better job. Literally the best way to do this. For instance, one of our clients, Josh, was able to get an offer from 2 different FANG companies, which are the hardest companies in the world to get into, even harder than Ivy League universities. Using his personal brand, or just as a side hustle, right? Just as a way to make a little bit of extra money on the side. We teach people how to do this, or people who are already making money to make more money, or people who already have a full-fledged business and they're crushing it, and they're, already have a successful YouTube channel and they want to optimize their YouTube channel and make even more money. So we've worked with literally every one of those types of people. And what makes our system so good is that we combine all of the best practices of building a personal brand, but we use AI to scale things to make it 10 times more efficient. It's something that no one else has ever discovered. It's an amazing opportunity, and that's why I'm so excited to share it with you. So we are accepting 3 to 5 people into the first cohort. You need to be very dedicated, right? Do not apply if you're not super dedicated to growing your personal brand. So you have to be serious, you have to be dedicated, you have to be willing to put in the time, effort, and money that it takes to grow a personal brand. So if that's you, go ahead, apply in the description in the pinned comment below, and hopefully we get to work together. Have a good one. Bye.
Another thing you want to do is, if you have a team, assign specific KPI ownership. As an example, the average view duration is likely going to be assigned to the video editor, and the click-through rate would be assigned to the thumbnail designer. And if it's all you, then just own all of your KPIs. Now, we're going to go over this in much more detail in the operations video. But with that being said, here is our KPI ownership for the different positions on our team. Now, additionally, you can give bonuses to people if they're able to meet or exceed their KPIs. Just as an example, we give a bonus to our video editors, our scriptwriters, and our thumbnail designers whenever they get a video that gets over 100,000 views within the first 30 days, or if they get a video that gets over 1 million views, period. Now, there's going to be some amazing resources down in the description and the pinned comment below that's going to go in more detail on how all of this works. So definitely check that out. And also, if you're a busy business owner, AKA you're a YouTuber who wants to take YouTube very seriously, or if you're a coach, consultant, online service provider, or agency owner that wants to get more clients using YouTube and build your brand, then go ahead and click down below to apply for a free demo call where we will diagnose your current situation, figure out what your goals are, make a plan to get you from where you are to where you want to be, and then see if we are a good fit to work together or not. And also check out this video right here on how Thomas was able to completely remove himself from his 8-figure business by clicking right here.